In this video, I'm going to show you why these FUJINON MKs are some of the best lenses you can use on your DSMC1 and DSMC2 cameras in terms of image quality and also value for money. But these lenses aren't natively compatible on either DSMC1 or DSMC2 cameras, so that's why we made this adapter to make it possible. So yesterday we shot in an artist studio. It's quite small, so we had to get quite creative with where we were shooting from.
Just see.
Even though it was like a small cabin, there were windows with natural light, and I knew that with these lenses, we could really transform that space. So the reason that I got to the FUJINON MKs is because I was actively kind of looking for lenses that were lightweight, parfocal, had really good image quality, and also weren't crazy expensive to buy in the first place. And the FUJINON MK range just consists of these two lenses, the first one going from 18 to 55, and the second one going from 50 to 135, which is really great because on most shoots, that is your full kind of range of focal lengths that you need to kind of capture everything you want to get. So why use these lenses over other competitor lenses like DZO and Lauer that offer similar kind of focal lengths in PR mount, which is kind of more natively sported on these cameras? What these FUJINON MK lenses do bring is the pedigree of the brand FUJINON. So FUJINON have been developing cinema grade zoom lenses for the last 30 to 40 years. And a lot of that technology that they've been developing over that time has really been distilled into these lenses. And you get a real sense of that when you're using them. FUJINON also have been used on Top Gun Maverick because the lenses are so good optically, and the performance and the characteristics of the lenses do really stand out in comparison to other zoom lenses. So from an operator's perspective, using these lenses, they perform incredibly well because the two lenses are completely matched. So they have very nice FUJINON optical coatings, and they're matched to also match not each other, but also the much higher priced Cabrio lenses. They're a constant T2.9 from 18 to 55, and then from 50 to 135, that's T2.9 across the range. So no matter your scene and your lighting, you can swap between the two lenses. You're not going to have a light loss or have to kind of factor that into your exposure on the camera. Also, when you're zooming, you're not going to have that light drop off. So lots of cheaper lenses or photo-oriented lenses have a light drop off. So they may go from like 2.8 to f4 across the range. So it gets a little bit darker towards the end, and it can make cutting and editing that bit harder. With these lenses, you just don't have that. They also handle incredibly well. So FUJINON developed these lenses to be incredibly light. So they're made of composite plastics, but of a very high quality. All the mechanical internals are designed to be very nicely balanced. So you have a very kind of nice pressure on the focus, the zoom, and the iris. And that means when you're operating those, you get very familiar with how much you have to turn and that pressure. And because that pressure is constant, you don't have the worry of not knowing. With lots of kind of photo lenses, again, you do have that slight change in your focus ring. And on these lenses, you just don't have that. And being cinema lenses, these lenses are parfocal zooms. So as you zoom in and as you zoom out, as long as that back focus is calibrated, they hold perfect focus across the range. You can just zoom in, set your point, zoom back out, and then you know, as you're kind of operating and working that scene, you don't have to worry so much about focus drifting or going out of focus as you zoom in. And on both lenses, you have a macro mode. So this is a manual slider at the back of the lens, and you can quickly engage your macro mode, and then you can unengage it, and the lens won't go out of calibration, you won't lose your parfocal abilities, but what you do gain is a decrease in your minimum focus distance. So with macro focus mode engaged, your minimum focus distance gets much closer to the front of the lens, meaning especially in documentary or settings where you kind of really have only one chance to get what you're getting, you can very quickly get an up close shot and then quickly revert back to normal shooting mode. And it's just a feature that I've found in particular has come in significantly more handy than I ever thought it would.
Sorry.
I like to avalanche things.
No, it's alright.
One thing I've mentioned kind of briefly is that these have a back focus control. So what this is a knurled thumbscrew at the back of the lens, and it allows you to manually adjust the distance of the lens, the rear optic, from the sensor. So this means you can calibrate them perfectly to remain parfocal, whether you're in hot sunlight or very cold kind of Arctic conditions. The lens elements can kind of shift and move. What this back focus control allows you to do is just very quickly calibrate. You can just calibrate to infinity and very quickly maintain that parfocal ability. So the only way to use these lenses on these cameras is via the CINELUX Adapter. So this adapter was custom made to take advantage of the extra space RED cameras use for their lens mounts. So this lens attaches your camera a little bit differently to a normal lens. It actually has 4 knurled thumb screws around the edge of the mount, and then you connect the lens to the camera as you would a lens mount connecting to the camera. So it's a little bit different to normal, and it does make lens changes a little bit slower, but in the real world, it doesn't really matter. And especially if you're using 2 separate bodies with a lens attached to each, then it doesn't matter at all. But in the field, you can very quickly change a lens over. But just bear in mind that these lenses would require 2 separate adapters. And these adapters go onto the lenses in a semi-permanent way. And I say semi-permanent because they can be undone and the lens can be returned back to factory and its own E-mount. But that's not something you would want to do in the field. It usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes to mount these mounts onto the lenses. And each lens, so the 18-55 has a specific version of the mount, and the 50-135 has a version with an extra light baffle, and that is just to maintain the kind of perfect contrast and make sure you don't lose any optical performance when using these adapters on these lenses. We also have a full assembly video which is in the description, and that just shows you the exact process of adapting these lenses to these cameras. So the reason I think these offer incredible value for money and are some of the best value for money lenses you can get for your DSMC1 and 2 cameras right now is because these lenses retailed for about $4,000, $4,500 new for each lens. And they were incredibly widely adopted. So the secondhand market now has quite a lot of these lenses available to buy. And we've seen them go for around £1,400, which is about $1,700 for a pair, which is an incredible value because you're getting cinema grade optics, these incredibly well thought out, well designed lenses when using these adapters for around $2,000 and a bit $1,000. And they just offer performance that is kind of unrivaled at that price point. So you've seen throughout this video, we've had some shots that we did with the artists, and you should get a real good idea of how well these lenses performs. But the best kind of way of visualizing it is to download the original R3Ds, which we've included links to in the description. That way you can try it in your editing software, get a really good idea up close of the optical performance and just the characteristics of these lenses. So if you have any questions about these lenses or this exact setup, feel free to email us or just put a message in the comments. We're really looking forward to more people using these lenses on these incredible cameras, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.